Good morning, everyone. Got your coffee? I got mine. So, listen, a couple of things. I won't keep you long today, though, but a couple things. First thing is, first and foremost, let me thank you, Miss Shirley Reese. Not only do you just seeing the most wonderful things for the pantry, but you're just so supportive. And now that I know that your grand watches the unboxing videos, I'm going to clean up my language a bit. Maybe not during these morning coffee sessions, but now that I know that the babies are watching, because I always hit that not for kids button before I post it, because I know I curse a lot. I'm a former auto worker from Detroit. It is what it is. But I will clean up the language in those videos so that the kids can enjoy that more, because I am old fashioned and I don't believe that adults should be doing all that cussing in front of kids. That's just how I feel about it. So I'm going to be much more mindful of that. And also too, thank you for the love that you sent my way. I woke up this morning and I saw it and I said, thank you so much, because it was truly needed. It was truly needed. So I thank you so much. Interesting thing happened yesterday. A couple interesting things happened yesterday. First thing is, my Stand By Me gang came yesterday. And, I go through, sometimes I don't always go immediately through the security footage around the house. But I went through the security footage last night after everything was shut down and closed and everything. And I saw where, I had this conversation with this woman. She parked in the driveway. And on my, where I write the post in the community, I always ask that. And there are, we're trying to figure out a way to, I just figured out a way to mount a camera in the new pantry. I hadn't quite figured it out in the old pantry, and I really didn't want to do that. Just like I don't like the way that the padlock looks and what it says being on something that contains food. Because there are a lot of people, I'm mindful of the fact that a lot of people, especially in our Black community, grew up with the types of mothers. I have so many friends that grew up with the types of mothers. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because their mothers grew up in poverty, but they would put locks on refrigerators. And I understand when you got like a lot of kids, or you just got kids that'll just eat up everything, and you ration it out and you say, this is what you can have for the day, especially when they're home during the summertime. But I don't know, I try not to judge, I can definitely see my grandmother putting locks on her refrigerator. I don't think I would make her, I don't think that would make me, I considering how my uncles were, I could kind of understand why she would do that. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying that they had these mothers that kind of hoarded food and didn't like to share food. And I don't, and they said it was a very traumatizing experience. There's this creator I remember over on TikTok, and she lived with her grandmother, and I forget what her name was, but every time she went to go make herself a plate, the grandmother would come in and would monitor her making her plate. And I mean, she wasn't a big girl. She didn't make huge amounts of food. But then the man that lived in the house, the grandmother's boyfriend, not her husband, mind you, and not this young lady's grandfather, mind you, but he could have whatever he wanted. And I think that that's where they're coming from with that. So long story short, I don't like what a padlock says around food. This new pantry, if y'all went over on TikTok, you see that it has like the little locks. It's just more discreet, but seeing an actual padlock, I just don't want to trigger people. But, you have to do what you have to do, because like one of my other followers said, Michael, who says he also works for a nonprofit. Well, I don't work for a nonprofit, but he says he works for a nonprofit. I have in the past, but he says that he works for a nonprofit, and yeah, parents will lie in order to gain more resources, and and the kids tend to be quite honest. Which brings me to my next thing. when she pulled up in my driveway, I only saw in the cameras, the motion where she pulled up in the driveway, and then I did have to ask her to get out of my driveway, because people who actually belong here are coming and going. So, and then where I come from, I don't know what it is about these people in the South, but where I come from, it is rude to park in a person's driveway. That is very disrespectful. We don't play that up north. Especially if people don't know that you're coming, if you don't know anyone in the house, you don't park in somebody's driveway. You use the front of the house. So then when she moved her car, she blocked in my neighbor next door. And I said, ma'am, don't block the cars in. And then she turned around and she was nice about it, but she was nasty about it. And she said, well, where would you like for me to park? And then I pointed to the front of the house and I went like this because the whole front of the damn house literally is empty. What do you mean? Where do I want you to park? Use your fucking common sense. Why don't you? So common sense ain't always common. I have to remember that. My grandmama told me it ain't a flower that grow in everybody's garden. It ain't. So anyway, when I went back over the footage, I saw when she pulled up, initially, my Stand By Me gang was pulling up to the pantry and they had already had the pantry open when she pulled up, like she lived here. And I don't know what she said to them, but whatever she said to them, they walked away from the pantry. They didn't get any snacks. They didn't get any books. I couldn't pick it up on the camera, but so I'm going to actually talk to my Stand By Me gang and ask them what she said to them to make them walk away and leave. And not come back. These adults trying to take away resources from children, I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow that, especially you pulling up. And they probably thought she lived here, and probably thought she had some kind of authority, which she didn't. Mind you, this lady's got a big garbage bag. She's got a trash bag. I've got to do something about that too. Because like you said, Michael, there are some people that just, fortunately, not everyone who comes to the community pantry is that way, but some people just are. I had out, I think, like 3 tides. She took every single one of them, of those 4 tides. Again, this is why you can't put out all of something, because one person will wipe you out. She took all of the dog food. That's why you can't put out all of something. She took all of the Kool-Aid jammers. That's why you can't put out all of something. She took all of the Spam. I only put out 2. She took both of them. She took one of the pancake mixes. She took almost all of the biscuit. And like I said, it's cool. It's cool. But it's just the fact that there were several out there and she took all of everything. You will get people like that. People who feel very entitled. And that is, again, why we cannot put out too many multiples of the same thing. Especially if it's a big ticket item. Like the Spam. Like the jammers. Like the snacks. And those boys come pretty much every other day for a book and some snacks. And I don't know what she said to them, but they felt unwelcome afterwards. So when I see them again, I'm definitely going to talk to them and ask them what she said to them to make them feel like, first of all, they had to give her the right of way because they were there first. She could have waited, especially since she was sitting in my driveway. So that upset me a bit, because they are more entitled in my head, in my mind, than she is, or than she will ever be. But these are the things that, you have to deal with, and you have to learn how to, and because of people like her, I'm very mindful of what I put out so that I can make sure that everyone has, the ability to access things. You know what I'm saying? So, and I am pretty good with that, y'all. I am. The other thing I want to talk about is yesterday, we got a check in the mail. I'm not going to tell you for how much, but the check was well over $100,000. And I thought, you know how you get all those little fake checks in the mail, right? And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the back of it, and then I start to read the letter. Check is real. The check is real. You know who the check was from? The check was from a corporation that wanted to buy my house. And I'm looking for anything. And then to say that this is not a real check, because it looked very, very real. That's what made me read the letter. And they said basically the signing and depositing of this check is that you agree to the terms of selling your property to us. This is what the corporations are doing now, y'all. They have moved beyond sending you the little postcards every other day, wanting to buy your property. They've gone to sending whole entire checks to people. What if someone is in a bind right in the moment when they get that check? What if someone's kid is on drugs and they endorse the check and deposited it? What if, just what if? You know what I'm saying? And this is what they are doing to people. And especially in black communities. That is just so fucking predatory. It's so predatory. I was so angry upon receiving that. It's so predatory. These corporations, first of all, there's this house that I love that we pass every day. I love this house. Man, I love it. And it recently sold. And so I was curious to see how much the money, because that's all public information. I was curious to see how much the house sold for. Plus, I love this house because it sits way back and it's just so private, and it's got these pretty palm trees in front of it, palmetto trees, and it's so pretty, and you can see where the pool is on the side when you walk. I just love it. And it's got these wrought iron gates around the property. It's like the house is totally me. Like, if I could afford this house, I would buy this house. So I was curious about the house. I wanted to know what it looked like on the inside. And I'm usually not this nosy, but when I tell you I love this house, I look at it every single day. I just love this house. And my husband always say, baby, if I had the money, I'd buy that house for you. Because I love this house. I looked, and the house is gorgeous. The inside of it. I was so happy to see those pictures. House is beautiful. And in the back, there is a, what do you call it? A guest house in the back by the pool. Oh, I love this house. And it's so funny because it sits right next door to the house that my husband loves the most in Columbia, South Carolina. They sit side by side, and we always joke and we always say, hey, he says, yeah, I can have that house and you can have that one. Anyway, house sold for $710,000. Now, mind you, it's a nice house, but it ain't $710,000 nice. That house is maybe, I can see someone starting reasonably at $400,000 and maybe taking $375,000 for it. But these corporations, this is what they have done to the market. And they have, because the corporations will buy the houses because they don't want, this is another way where they are pushing people into poverty because they're going to make everybody renters. And people will be paying these astronomical prices for these homes. You know how when you see a house now in your neighborhood and it seems like a lot of people live there? Not all of that is multi-generational living. A lot of that is a corporation owns the house and it rents out rooms. $1,600 a piece, each room. And that's how they're raking it in. So not only do they buy the whole entire property, but they rent out pieces of an entirety. It's like buying a car and parting it out. It's in order to get the most money, a junker rather. And it's horrible. Unless you can afford to pay the whole rent. And and the rents on the houses are now $3,000 on a house that should be about $1,200 a month, if that. This is what they're doing to the market. And that is what they would do to my home in an area like this. They would definitely buy the home. They would rent out the bedrooms, and they wouldn't care what kind of elements were being invited into the community. They don't care. They don't care if you live in next door to someone who's on the sex offender list or not. They don't care. This is going to destroy communities. And as a property owner, can I honestly sit here and tell you that I wouldn't sell my house to a corporation? No, I can't. Because if we have to move out of America because it's becoming so expensive, we're going to need all the money we can get. And I'm going to have to capitalize on my investment. And that's just facts. We can't afford not to. That's facts. And it's a real catch-22. We have to get Harris and Waltz in there because I've heard her speak on this issue. And corporations shouldn't be able to steal the American dream from American people. America, right when America started messing up, was right when they busted up all the unions and put these jobs overseas. America, when something was American built, yeah, you had to pay the workers a livable, decent wage. Because Americans worked hard and took pride in their work. And we were smart back then. And then these corporations busted up the unions. And then once that happened, they parted out the company. And they sent these jobs over to, Asian nations and brown nations that would do the same job for a fraction of the cost. That's why when you call for help on the phone anymore, you can't get anyone from North America on the phone anymore. And then things get lost in translation. And, and I'm not xenophobic, but, it's hard when you're trying to get business conducted and you're speaking to someone whose language is, English isn't their first language. And things can get lost in translation. Not with everyone, but unfortunately with a lot. And then you don't get helped. You don't, and then you never know what's going to happen with your information, because so many of those companies, they put your shit on the dark web. You end up getting fraud on your cards, and it's horrible, and all in the name of greed. We can't pay Americans a fair wage, for hard work, and no one can afford anything. And now they want to make a home unaffordable. And then when you can't afford it, they tell you got to go to jail and provide them with free labor. So either way, they're going to make money off of you. This is a brutal world, a brutal nation. Brutal. Man, I tell you, brutal. Straight up brutal. That's all I got. Y'all have a good day. If you would like to support my platform, I will put my Venmo and my Cash App down in the comments. If you would like to contribute to our curbside community library and pantry, I'll put that link down in the comments. Y'all have a good day.